ladies and gentlemen? How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? I'm back this time a little bit early this time. Normally my podcast start at 1, but usually I actually don't show up and I don't get here till around probably like 1:15. So this time I'm 20 minutes early. I just thought, because like most of the time, like when I'm doing this, I'll just like, or when I'm preparing or getting ready to do the podcast, I'll just be waiting the whole time, waiting till 1 o'clock, and then once 1 o'clock rolls around, then I realize, oh crap, I gotta do this, or I gotta do that, I gotta make a thumbnail for this, or there's a lot of things I forget, so I just got up, got all that stuff out of the way, and then as soon as I got it done, I just went ahead and jumped right into it, made sure that everything audio-wise should be working, everything should be firing in all cylinders, so hopefully we don't have any problems. Before we get into our regular scheduled programming today, though, couple announcements. This weekend we don't have any fights this weekend, so that means no MMA fights whatsoever, no Bellator, no UFC. I don't know if one or any other promotions have some, but nothing that's caught my eye or anything that I've seen promoted that's probably big enough for me to see, because I follow a lot of like MMA news outlets and I haven't really seen anything, so I don't think there's anything crazy going on this weekend. So there won't be any reactions this weekend. There won't be any betting videos or betting tips. So that's 2 videos gone this weekend, my reaction and my betting videos. And then next week I have my MMA Monday, and that's usually when I recap the fights and everything. And since there's no fights, I'm really in limbo whether or not I am going to do a MMA Monday, because there's really not going to be a whole lot of substance for me to talk about. Got people in the chat, how we doing? There's not a lot of substance though, because like the whole recap of the weekend's like a big part of this. Is why it's called MMA Mondays. So that might be tough. I could get on here if you guys want me to. I could just hop on, talk about whatever, talk some mess, but I don't know what you guys want me to do. If that's something you guys would be interested in, I can hop on or just ramble about whatever. If you guys have topics, I can answer questions. If there's just a bunch of people that hop in here, have questions, whatever, it could be betting related, fighting related, completely unrelated, it doesn't matter. I'll talk about anything, but just let me know. But I think that's about it. I feel like I had something else to say. I'm still gonna upload, I'm definitely gonna have at least another video besides the podcast a week. I'm working on a few different things right now, but I kind of want to spend this week too, since we don't have any fights or anything to react to or make betting videos on. Stumble over my words. I'm probably gonna take a little bit more time just to work on other videos and get a bunch of videos done, hopefully this week, and just get a bunch done and have them kind of stuffed away or whatever, just videos to have in the vault in case I need content or whatever, or something to pull out. I'm probably going to be working on a lot of things this weekend and just doing a lot of planning, brainstorming, trying to figure out how I can upscale things, get better. So that's the situation with this week. But this past weekend we had the Font versus Garbrandt fight card, which was pretty sweet for a fight night. Main event didn't really go how I expected. I did expect Font to win, but I didn't expect it to go the full 5 rounds. We'll get into the betting recap and everything here in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up the card and go run through it, because I watched that card fight from the first fight to the last fight, and if you guys saw my my video I uploaded this past Saturday, I did a betting challenge pretty much where I started the very first fight of the night and had a bet pretty much the whole card. I started off with $1 and I was going to see what I could build that dollar into by the end of the night. I pretty much had to bet on 10 fights. There was 12 total fights, and I had to bet on at least 10. And I got all the way up to the co-main event and lost all my money. So if you guys have not seen that, go ahead and check that out. It's a pretty good little video. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this card, though, because like I said, I did see all of these fights. So I can go through and share my thoughts on a lot of these. And there were some pretty good fights, some pretty sweet finishes. Let me see if I can get the prelims pulled up. This is taking forever. But there was a lot of crazy outcomes, a lot of unexpected outcomes. Here we go. This decides to load. First fight of the night was Damir Ismagulov and Rafael Alves, and this one again, a lot of crazy stuff right off the bat. Damir Ismagulov got dropped within the first, I don't know, I want to say 30 seconds or so. And Ismagulov was a minus almost 600 favorite, one of the second biggest favorite on the card. He was the biggest favorite up until Dvorak's opponent dropped out. Let me go ahead and switch over actually so you guys can see what I'm looking at. But he was essentially he was tied for the biggest favorite on the card, him and Dvorak. But when I looked on other betting or sportsbook platforms, whatever you want to call them, Ismagulov's second biggest favorite. Anyways, got dropped in like the first 30 seconds of the fight, which was really scary. Looked like he could have been in some trouble, got back up and ended up dominating the fight. As you can see, won unanimous decision. But that was pretty scary, especially given the fact that he was considered to be like a lock. Like, I mean, he was one of the biggest favorites on the card. So that was a little bit scary. And then the second fight, this one ended very fast, as you guys can see. David Dvorak, who was supposed to face Raulian Paiva, who I had one of my bets, who actually had Raulian Paiva beating Dvorak, who was a plus 120 dog. That fight got pulled due to COVID, and Dvorak had a replacement fight, some dude that was, I'm guessing, just off the regional scenes or somewhere. He was only 4-0, so he wasn't obviously that experienced versus someone like Dvorak, who now has a record of 20-3, 19-3 at the time going into this fight. Had way more experience than Renderos, not to mention UFC experience at that. And he had been preparing for a UFC fight this whole entire time, like a high-level MMA fight. Not just whatever. He wasn't. I don't know what. I'm sure Renderos was training, but I don't think he was training to the same intensity as Dvorak, who was expecting to be in a fist fight on May 22nd. Who Renderos didn't know until like literally the day before. But that fight ended very fast in submission. I was so mad because I knew for sure, I thought for 100% that Dvorak would finish Renderos for that simple fact that he'd been preparing for a fight. He's going to be more in shape. He's going to be more ready to go versus Renderos, who literally got the notice that he was fighting the day before the fight. So I was like, he's for sure going to finish him simply, unless Renderos had some crazy durability and toughness, crazy chin. I thought it was pretty certain that Dvorak would finish him. And I picked him to finish him by TKO, KO, just some sort of stoppage with strikes. And, that ended up not happening. He ended up getting submitted, and the submission, the prop bet for a submission was like plus 650 odds, and I bet the obviously the knockout, which is like plus 140, and I was pretty mad about that because he ended up submitting him. I was really upset. It's like one of the only times I never wanted to see jiu-jitsu in a fight was when this was going on. And then Josh Kulabau and Shayalan Nerdembake. This was a pretty like first round. It was like the first couple minutes. The first round was pretty entertaining fight. It was back and forth, and then Kulabau for the most part started taking over. And I think you saw like a huge skill difference in terms of someone like Nerdembake, who I was talking about in my video. It just didn't seem like he was there wasn't much from Nerdembake other than him just going balls to the wall and trying to blitz you with like some powerful overhands and like wide looping shots. And then maybe the occasional takedown, hold you up against the fence, and then try to take you down. But he never mixed the two together. He never used his strikes to set up his takedowns. He never mixed anything together. Never really went to the body. Never really did a whole lot of kicks or anything like that. Versus Kulabau was mixing up all over the place, and really it was a mixed martial arts showcase from Kulabau. And I think that was the difference. I mean, it was crazy too when you look at both these fighters. Kulabau was like a really skinny, flabby 145. And Nerdembake is like a jacked, absolutely shredded gill, zero body fat, 145. He was actually coming down from 155. Used to fight at 155 and was coming down to 145. It was a huge, like, I mean, height-wise they're both the same, but in terms of like physical appearance, completely different. And Kulabau completely tuned him up, which was pretty crazy. And I won money on that fight. I'm not gonna spoil a lot of these because you guys can go ahead and check out the video, see what all I won. And then Bruno Silva, Victor Rodriguez, one of the fights that I also was in one of my official bets for my betting video. I had Bruno Silva money line. This was before he was at minus 400. He was like probably minus, I want to say 300 maybe when I got him, but I parlayed him, so it was because his odds were so big. I had Bruno Silva money line. Bruno Silva money line hit. Knocked out Victor Rodriguez exactly 1 minute into the first round, and I think Bruno Silva was looking pretty solid for someone who was going into this fight at one point in time, pretty much 1-4 in his career in the UFC, and then knocked out JP Bives, which was that one win, and then knocked him out. I don't know if it was the first or second round. Knocks him out, like very similar to how he knocked out Rodriguez. It seems like Bruno has some like serious power. It doesn't look like he does, but the way he like hits people, like they literally just go flying around the octagon. It looks like they got hit with like some like a Hulk punch or something. So this, that was a pretty sweet fight for the minute that it lasted. Silva looks like he's starting to maybe make a new turn or whatever on his career. He looks pretty good in his at least in his past two fights. So maybe he can keep that momentum going because he does look pretty solid. And it sounds like he does have the skill and background and camp and everything to be good. I mean, he was Henry Cejudo's main training partner when Henry Cejudo was a champ. So he could potentially be someone to look out for. Keeping it rolling, though, Claudia Silva, Court McGee. This was one of the fights I stayed away from. As you can see, the lines were so close, minus 113 to minus 110. McGee ended up winning the fight, as you can see. Claudio Silva looked very sloppy. He just, like, he was another person that didn't look like. I mean, obviously he could hold his own on the ground and he was throwing strikes and stuff like that, but it didn't seem like. I mean, jiu-jitsu seemed like that was probably a strong suit, and his striking did not seem very good, like, at all. He seemed like every time he'd throw a kick, it just looked lazy, labored. It was just like, it didn't look like an MMA fighter throwing. I want to see if I can actually pull up. I'm gonna see it. Court McGee, Claudia Silva highlights, because if you watch this dude, it doesn't even like this guy doesn't even look like he should. It looks like someone who you'd see like on their first day at a kickboxing gym. Throwing like kicks and stuff like that. Just the way he was winging his body around is pretty funny. It was like in the beginning it was kind of interesting because Claudio Silva was so wild and unorthodox, I guess, with his technique. It just wouldn't, I guess, what you're used to seeing. So he did catch Court McGee a couple times, but ultimately McGee grinded him out over the course of that 15 minutes. I don't know if this is ever gonna load, but keeping it rolling. Hold on, this is really loud. The audio's playing, but I can't hear it. Ben Rothwell, Chris Barnett. This was another fight I had money on. You guys can see the outcome of my video. Rothwell looked pretty good in that fight. I think Barnett. Problem with Barnett is he's like, I think, especially with a lot of these UFC guys, he's gonna be a lot smaller than a lot of these UFC guys. Rothwell was 6'3". My dog is very upset right now. I'm gonna mute my mic really fast just because. Alright, hopefully that's over with. Apologize about that. Chris Barnett, let me see size-wise what he was. Can't really see. Usually it shows, but it's not showing. But he was a lot smaller. I think he was like 5'10", if that. There was like a big size difference, like probably 4 or 5 inches in height. And I think that was the problem. He couldn't get inside on Rothwell. And I think just Rothwell, again, more experienced. And against UFC caliber guys, I think that's probably what you saw. Let me see. Hopefully I didn't lose where I was. Of course this isn't loading either. Everything's freezing up now. Everything just hit the fan at once. Hold on, guys. Trying to get it all back together. This will decide to load, but that Barnett fight was, I mean, Rothwell looked good. It just seemed like Barnett didn't really know what to do after he got tired, and he got tired very fast, and he just kept running around. And yeah, I'm not even gonna mess around with that. And it just seemed like the reach and everything, he couldn't get inside. He was getting tuned up, and he was wasting too much gas trying to do certain things, and especially this technique, the way he moves and all that spinning stuff. He wasn't doing a whole lot of crazy stuff, but like the Superman punches, a lot of like the crazy technique, I guess, for a heavyweight was definitely wearing on him. And I mean, he was gassed after the first round, and then got taken down and submitted. Actually, he shot in on Barnett. And they were saying in the commentary you shouldn't shoot in on Barnett because he's gonna you'll get choked out, and that's exactly what happened. And then on to the main card, back to the prelims. On to the main card, Jack Hermansson, Edmund Shabazian. I literally said this fight all depends on how the first round goes. And if you guys had seen, if you guys saw my video from Saturday, it literally was like exactly what I said. Shabazian was gonna go crazy, and that whole first round was dependent on whether or not Shabazian could knock out Hermansson. It looked like he may have had like he definitely had a shot to knock out Hermansson in that first round. He was catching with a lot of shots, and he had a definite striking advantage. Was tuning him up on the feet, and then Hermansson came out that second round, took him down right away, wore him on the ground, beat him up with some ground and pound, and then that started wearing on him. And again in the third round, pretty much the same thing, and it looked like his cardio was wearing down over time as he was getting injured, or as he was getting hit. He was getting tired, and that was literally how I believe that I said going into this fight that I believe that Shabazian had cardio issues, and I think he's really only that dangerous, like very dangerous in that first round, and especially if you get your hands on him, start wearing him out, then you can start tiring him out. And that's exactly what we saw. Like, literally how I predicted is exactly how this fight played out. Shabazian ended up winning unanimous decision. Keeping it rolling, Ricardo Ramos, another fight that I had my official bets on. Another underdog that hit versus Bill Algeo. I thought this fight was going to end in the first round. Ramos was tagging him up, and he took his back like very, very, very fast. which was pretty crazy. I thought he was gonna finish it right there, and it sucked too because I had food that was cooking. I was trying to as he took his back, my timer wasn't in on my food, so I had to go check my food. And when I came back, I was expecting the fight to be over, but it's still going. Algeo did show that. He was hanging in there for the whole fight, but I think there was just a difference in somebody who had more UFC experience. Algeo has more fight experience, but Ramos has more UFC experience, more UFC fights, and he looked like he just it was a full showcase again in mixed martial arts. Great grappling, great jiu-jitsu, had some solid takedowns in Algeo, and then his stand-up as well was doing a great job tagging him up on the feet. And then moving on to the Felicia Spencer-Norma Dumont fight. This was one of the fights I stayed away from. If you guys have heard any of my podcasts, any of my other betting videos, anything like that, I always say I stay away from these women's fights just because it's like the underdog. It's so shaky because you never know. Someone could be a massive underdog like Spencer, who's a -200 underdog, and then someone else comes in that you don't know a lot about, or it just for whatever reason you don't know what's gonna. It's hard to predict what's gonna happen. And again, Norma Dumont was a plus 156 underdog, ended up winning a split decision. I think it was a pretty good. I mean, it was a pretty good fight back and forth, but I think towards the end Dumont started turning it on, and yeah, I'm glad I didn't bet on this fight because I probably would have bet on Spencer. A lot of people were saying Felicia Spencer was a lock. There's someone talking about in one of my comments saying Spencer was a lock, and I said I was talking about doing Spencer and Hermanson in a parlay. I'm glad I didn't do that just for the simple fact that I don't know. I'm trying to stick to that rule of thumb because usually when I shy away from things, then things get a little bit dicey. Keeping it rolling though, Justin Tafa, Jared Manderia. I had this fight I had this not going the distance. I think I had it under 2.5 rounds or something. And this one ended up going the distance, which was pretty unexpected. Vandera's had wasn't even a massive cut. It was just like a tiny little cut, but it made him bleed an insane amount. He was completely covered in blood. Let me see if I can pull up that picture actually of Jared Vandera, because his face was it literally looked like it was out of a murder scene or something. Like he just murdered somebody. You can see it looks really bad, but the cut was like a little speck on his head, and he had all that blood. There's another picture where you could really see. Right here, literally looks like he just killed somebody, and it was literally the tiniest cut. It was like a paper cut on his head, which was pretty crazy. Ended up beating Tafa in a decision. That was a really good fight. It was pretty close back and forth. Vandera ended up winning, who was also an underdog. And then this fight again, Yan Xiaonan and Carla Esparza. I initially was going to bet on Yan, and I stayed away from it again for that rule of thumb that I talked about, and I ended up putting money on Esparza to win by decision. Esparza ended up winning. TKO'd her, had her in that crucifix position, was just beating her head in with elbows. But again, that rule of thumb, that same thing I talked about that applies to this fight. Underdog ended up winning. I just had the wrong outcome on that one. I should have just done money line, to be honest, but I really expected it to go to a decision. And then the main event, another unexpected outcome. Rob Font, obviously, I kind of believed in my heart that Rob Font was going to win. I'm a big Cody guy, but there was no way I saw this fight going the distance whatsoever. I thought for sure this would be done in 3 rounds or less, which is pretty. I don't think anybody expected that. They were even talking about the UFC analysts in the post-fight show were talking about how none of them expected this to go the full 25 minutes. I didn't expect this, and a lot of people that the odds for this not to go the distance were -305. So I mean, it was guaranteed almost that this wouldn't go the distance. Not guaranteed, but it was pretty certain this was almost a lock not to go the distance. And it ended up going the distance, which is going to kind of segue me into these bets here. If I can pull up my bets, let me go back to this, pull up this. I'm going to go ahead and just slide this right down there. That'll do. So as you can see, the bets from this weekend, we obviously had Bruno Silva moneyline. That hit. And then the main event, inside the distance, the lock of the night, which I thought was a guaranteed lock of the night. I think everybody thought this was the lock of the night. Main event, inside the distance, that did not hit. Ricardo Ramos moneyline, my underdog pick. As you can see, that one hit as well. The green ones hit, the red ones don't. Just a visual way to understand the graphic here, whatever. That one hit +105 underdog. And then Hali and Pavia, that one was voided simply because he got the COVID situation. That fight got pulled. Overall, my fight outcome record, again, these are all just based off total fight outcomes, like the Silva, for example, this event would be, not including the Pavia because it didn't happen, 3-1, or 2-1, 2 out of 3, I guess. And then, like I said, my overall fight outcome record, I actually miscounted when I was talking about last week, and I said it was 6, or I was 14-3 or something like that, I believe is what I said. I went back and checked on my videos too. I wanted to verify. I didn't want to have my numbers off or anything like that. My numbers were off. I went through and checked. My record actually was supposed to be 14-4. So this weekend, going in with that loss, I'm now 16-5 with 76% accuracy though on these fight outcomes, which is pretty dang good. I mean, if you're just betting these as single bets too, you could, and if you're not even parlaying these together, you probably have a lot higher success in making money. Parlay obviously make a little bit more money because you're combining the odds together. But, I mean, 16-5, 16 out of 21 total fight outcomes, 76% accuracy. That's pretty good. If you guys have not watched or haven't done any of my, followed any of my bets, I would suggest doing it. I mean, literally, besides this weekend, again, this is another crazy circumstance. A minus 305 favorite odd pick, I guess, didn't hit, which is like really kind of nuts. Especially when like everybody in the MMA community expected this not to go the distance. Between these two guys too, some like Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font, it was almost like a guaranteed lock that this wouldn't go the distance, and it did. Just an unfortunate situation. Nonetheless, though, still up 2-1 on the weekend. That's not bad. Should have been undefeated though. But yeah, I think that's it for this weekend on the bets and everything. I was gonna talk to you guys too. If you guys had seen Joe Rogan has talked about this guy, more plates, more dates, or something like that. It's some like lifting. He's like some bodybuilder guy on YouTube, but he does a lot of videos like breaking down UFC fighters and if UFC fighters are natural or not, like in terms of steroids. I'm gonna go ahead and take away this betting graphic too, so it's not just blocking part of the screen. But let me see here. This is taking forever to load. He made a video pretty much breaking down. He's done a bunch of people like Paulo Costa, John Jones. I think it was in the Paulo Costa one when he was talking about how pretty much USADA, because the big thing with USADA is everyone's real big on USADA because USADA is cleaning up the sport and it's bringing integrity back to the sport because people aren't taking steroids. And a lot of people are really praising USADA, and I was really big on USADA. A lot of people were really big on USADA. Because we thought what they were doing was really good to the sport, and almost too good because a lot of people were getting popped for like random things like Sean O'Malley testing for Osterine when like he had like a tainted supplement, which like if you look at Sean O'Malley, that dude's obviously not on steroids, and a bunch of other random situations where they're literally picking up things from literally like a picogram, which is like a grain of salt broken into 50 million pieces, and one of those pieces is a picogram, and they're finding picograms of trace things in people's systems, which is like if they just had like a supplement that wasn't whatever the vats they used to mix the supplements, wherever they're made, maybe had steroids in it before they mixed the whatever protein powder, and they're getting tainted supplements, and they're literally finding that stuff. So people thought it was like almost too good. You thought it was too good. But now there's some stuff coming out, and I'm honestly kind of thinking USADA is a little bit shaky. Maybe not their like in terms of like their actual practices as or a business organization, whatever they are. Not necessarily shaky, but what they do makes it their integrity shaky, I guess. Because it was saying in this more plates, I think I'm almost certain it was a Paulo Costa video which broke down that he pretty much said that he does think that Paulo Costa is on steroids. And he said in this video that when USADA has like a lot of people, because a vast majority of the UFC roster, not a, like way like I don't know what percentage wise, but it's definitely over 50%. Like a good majority of the UFC roster is probably is definitely from all around the world, not the United States. And USADA is the United States anti-doping agency, so it's easy to test people in the United States because it's domestic and it's all people inside. I think domestic is the right word. I'm just throwing out words here. But they're in the United States, so it's easier for them to test people in the U.S. versus when you have fighters that live in Russia, you have people that live in Brazil, you have people that live in people that fight out of literally all corners of the world. So it's hard for USADA to send someone here, send someone there. Let me send someone here. They don't have enough people, and they don't have enough money, resources, everything like that, and time to go around all around the world and test people with their USADA employees. So what USADA does is they outsource to different labs and different testing agencies in like government agencies or whatever in different countries. So for example, in Brazil, they would reach out to a Brazilian lab or testing agency, third party. It's not like a USADA related anything. It's third party. They just reach out to them and have them go do pretty much the testing, the dirty work for USADA, knocking on people's doors at 7 a.m. or whatever, having pee in cups, draw their blood. But what is like what makes it a little bit weird is the fact that you're having people that are not USADA, so you're not having any USADA oversight, or any UFC oversight at that. It's just a third-party company that goes out and gets his sample. It's like, say I lived in flipping Kazakhstan, and there was a Kazakhstani fighter that needed to be tested, and say I'm working at a testing agency. I live in Kazakhstan. I'm from Kazakhstan. I work at some lab in Kazakhstan, and I do similar stuff like this. USADA sends me an email, contacts me saying, hey, can you go test this? I don't know if this is exactly how it works, but just to give you an idea. Can you go test this person for me? And say I'm whoever's biggest, like I'm a big fan of them, but obviously they don't know that. And I go out and take this person's pee, and maybe they might. That sounded really weird. Maybe they may or may not be on steroids, but say they are or something, and I know maybe they are or aren't. So no matter what, I just swap them out with some clean pee and give them some clean blood, so they're 100% clean, and then I send it back to USADA. There's no way for them to, like, because they're reaching out to third-party places, the same people that whatever that works for these agencies, these third-party companies, whether it's government agencies, whatever, those are the same people that are big fans of these fighters because they're heroes in their hometown or their home country, hometown, whatever, and like. The same, they potentially could be, the same people waiting outside the gym asking these fighters for autograph, whatever, going to their fights, paying for their pay-per-views. So who's to say that these people aren't helping these fighters pass things or giving them clean blood, clean pee, things like that? That's a big conspiracy going on right now. And he was talking about the more plates, more dates guy. I've heard exactly how he broke it down because it's been a while since I watched this. But he pretty much was saying how he thinks that Paulo Costa is on steroids. There's definitely good enough. I don't know what it would be, substances, things you can put in your body out there to mask whatever you're putting in, because ultimately this stuff is going to keep accelerating faster than testing everything can keep up with, because testing only goes as far, and how well testing goes only goes to as far as how good or how elusive, I guess, these substances get when you try to test them. So, something gets a little bit harder to find, and the test gets a little bit better. So they have to wait for, I guess, the bad guys or the steroids, whatever, the steroid industry, to go a little bit further to get a little bit better in order for the test to get a little bit better. So it does seem a little bit fishy right now. I think we might be in a little bit of a weird time where you do have a lot of people, like TJ Dillashaw got away for the longest time with EPO. I don't know. We can't say he got away for the longest time. He tested positive in 2019 when that happened, but he had been accused years before of taking steroids and didn't get caught until 2019. So that seems a little bit fishy. I mean, if you're using your brain, connecting the dots, and using a little bit of logic, he only got caught once, but he was being accused a lot of times before. Chances are a guy probably was taking steroids, because why were they accusing of him way before he even got caught for it? Just seems a little bit weird to me. And he got away with it for years before he even actually got caught. Again, a lot of people think that Paulo Costa out of camp is like 240 pounds, 230 pounds, and then gets down to 185. And when he's up in the 200s, he's not fat anyways. He's just like pure muscle. He's like shredded still. I don't know body fat percentage wise, but he's not fat. He's not pudgy or anything. He's pretty jacked. So the fact that he drops the amount of weight he does, like almost 50 pounds or more, is a little bit absurd, and it's kind of insane that his body allows him to do that. There's a couple other examples. People he talked about. I think he talked about John Jones as well, saying he believes that John Jones did take steroids at one point, because if you look at his testosterone levels and things like that, it was like he had the testosterone of like a 90-year-old man, which obviously can't be the case, because you're one of the greatest fighters, however you view it, in mixed martial arts history. And obviously he's got to be taking something to like bring his levels down, which seems a little bit fishy, obviously. But there's just a couple different instances where he pretty much says that USADA isn't the answer. It's not the one fix all thing to this problem, and how he thinks it's honestly a little bit fishy. And I honestly am a little bit on that same side as well. I think USADA might be a little bit fishy as well, just because it's kind of weird that you have third-party people coming out and testing these people and stuff like that. If you guys go ahead and check it out, I'm not going to keep rambling on that. Also in combat sports news, Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao are going to be fighting August 21st, I believe. Sometime in August. That'll be a good fight. I don't know if any of you guys are like boxing fans, because this is an MMA podcast, but that'll be a really, really, really good fight. I'll probably be watching. I'll probably make maybe some sort of content or talk about it more as the fight gets closer, as the fight happens, because that's like it's in terms of like Manny Pacquiao is one of the greatest boxers of this generation, of this era, and Errol Spence, in my opinion, right now is like one of pound for pound best fighters. I really like to see. He's definitely one of the best welterweights on the planet. I'd like to see him and I want to make sure. I'm almost certain he's a welterweight because I don't know enough about boxing to know people's weights, but I know how flipping good Errol Spence is. I've seen him fight. I watched his comeback fight, and yeah, he's a welterweight. And I mean, the dude's the real deal. I think the fight that everybody wants to see is him and Terrence Crawford. But I mean, Manny Pacquiao's still a great fight. I think Manny Pacquiao's past his time. So if Spence beats him, people are gonna say, well, he's old and he's not the Manny Pacquiao he was. Manny Pacquiao he was, which is true. But it'll still be a good fight. I'm still gonna watch, and it'll still definitely sell pay-per-views. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this week, and it was a pretty quick little podcast. Again, this week, definitely going to have another video out. I don't know exactly how many or what the video is going to be. I know what the video is going to be, but we'll see how many videos come out this week. I'm definitely going to take this week since we don't have any fights, no bets to make, no reactions to do. I'm going to take this time, obviously, to just put a lot of time into more creative work, planning things out, writing videos, shooting videos, all that stuff, pretty much working on improving, upscaling for you guys. And if you guys do want me to do an MMA Monday next Monday, even though there's no MMA stuff to recap, I could just hop on here and talk about whatever. Combat sports, anything mixed martial arts related. Maybe it doesn't have to be whatever, like a recap. It could just be current events, news. Diego Sanchez and his coach, they split up or whatever. And apparently apparently his coach is claiming now that Diego took advantage of him and he's just a jerk. He's just like somebody's like, he called him a celebrity and he says he acts like a celebrity, pretty much saying he's a jerk. There's all kinds of stuff. We could talk about that drama, and there's a bunch of other things I could definitely get into. So if that's something you guys are interested, let me know. If you guys have any ideas, video suggestions, as always, let me know in the comment section below. I really appreciate everyone's support. If you guys have tuned into this podcast, if you guys enjoyed it, go ahead and drop a like. If you guys have not subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe. I really appreciate your guys' support. It really helps me grow my channel. And I always talk about, I make betting videos. I give you guys things to put your money on. Surefire locks in MMA, whatever. A surefire lock of the century, bet of the century. I guarantee you guys, if you guys believe me, you invest your support and everything else into me. I promise you that's something that'll pay off, because I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep grinding at this, and I'm gonna really keep trying to improve for you guys. Keep getting better, and I really want to make something out of this. I hope you guys can see that, and the amount of uploads I put out, and I try to improve my quality each video. To me, it seems like it's not very visible or whatever, but I try to work, I try to improve, I try to make things a little bit better with each video, editing wise, just learning, whether it's behind the scenes stuff with YouTube, whatever. So I really appreciate your guys' support, and you showing your support is the best way you guys can invest in me, because I promise you guys your support will pay off. Be able to say you're like one of the people that were here first, and a day one person on this channel. Other than that, though, that's all I got for you guys. That is it for episode 8 of MMA Mondays. I will catch you guys on the flippity floppity. Peace.